Hello, everybody, and welcome to another episode of the World Talk. This is your rapid fire news section. To start you off, we have a little bit of a turn in the Middle Eastern conflicts. NATO is expected to confirm its troop withdrawals from Afghanistan after the U.S. withdrawing its troops. This is obviously due to the fact that NATO, sticks together, and the fact that there are 9,600 NATO troops altogether in Afghanistan, and almost a third of those, being 2,500, are American. The U.S. Secretary of State, Anthony Blinken, simply had to say that they believe that the U.S. had achieved their goals, however, limited the goals achieved narrowly to anti-terrorism, not mentioning other NATO efforts such as liberating women, providing education, and shifting agriculture away from growing heroin poppies. Sean, what's your take on this?
I think it's a generally good idea. I think the Middle East have had so much conflict with the US and NATO, and I think it's good that they pull out. Didn't we see similar situation with Trump wanting to pull out troops from Syria and now Afghanistan with Biden?
Yeah, I also think it's kind of weird because NATO was supposed to defend Europe, and now it's heading all the way to the Middle East. But that's another topic.
So, court vindicates black police officer fired from stopping colleague from chokehold. Carol Holm acted to stop a white police officer from using excessive force, while the Justice Dennis E. Ward ruled that her reassignment department changed and eventually fired was wrongful.
Well, I think that, this is a sort of all's well that ends well kind of situation because she clearly didn't deserve what was given to her, especially considering that she likely saved the person who was being choked's life, which is a very good thing to have nowadays.
Problem is this took 15 years to get through.
Yeah, of course. So, of course, now a new report has found that the Capitol Police were told to hold back on the riot response on January 6th. Well, I can't say we were much surprised.
Yeah, even though Capitol Police was informed prior to the protesters even breaking through the gates of the White House that Congress was the main target of the just we can call it a mob now, was the main target of the mob. It's truly, we already had an episode of me and Carlos talking about the whole January 6th incidents, and just adding this is just adding more fuel to the fire, really. This is kind of supporting the arguments of incitement and insurrection and so on. Moving a little bit away from the U.S., Johnson & Johnson's COVID vaccine has been paused due to some new concerns that have been fueled by tests. More specifically, 6 extremely rare cases of blood clots have been found in some of the participants of these trials. However, officials are refusing to pull the vaccine completely, instead asking for a timeout. Sean, with the whole situation we have going on in the world, everyone struggling and basically crawling over each other to get vaccines, what do you think this is going to do to it?
I think this is going to put more strain on the already sort of information out there on the vaccine. People believe that, again, you have the anti-vaxxer, but you have a large community of people who oppose the COVID vaccine on several grounds, from not being tested enough, which I disagree with. I think it was tested a lot. I think this is going to affect not just Johnson & Johnson, but other vaccines, and people are going to be less likely to take them.
I agree.
Hundreds of companies unite to oppose voting limits, and others abstain. Amazon, BlackRock, Google, Warren Buffett, and others assigned onto a new statement released today opposing the discriminatory legislation. Big show of solidarity between these companies, and this is trying to navigate sort of partisan uproar on the Republican wanting to impose these voting laws in almost every state. What do you think about that, Luca?
Well, I think it's kind of funny because with stuff like this, the conservative side of the U.S. has been like, oh, well, if you guys can cancel stuff, then how about we cancel these corporations? And then they vowed to abstain from using any products from these companies, except that then they realized that they couldn't live without them, and they stopped doing that within a week. I mean, it's good to see. Obviously, these corporations have their own problems, which will likely be discussed at some point on this podcast. But that's a good one. And another little tidbit of good news is that the FDA has allowed abortion pills to be mailed to recipients during the pandemic. This reduces the hassle of having to go to a what do they call it? Planned Parenting.
Yeah, Planned Parenthood
location, and or abortion clinic. And this would also, this of course means that they're stopping enforcing a rule that requires women to get the first of 2 pills at a medical clinic. And it counters a Supreme Court decision that was made in January that sided with the Trump administration. And this has been something that health experts have been urging for years.
I mean, just, 2 comments on this. First of all, kind of how we were talking about a couple weeks ago about the rapid changes in U.S. policy. This stopping of enforcing that rule that requires the women to get the first of the 2 pills at the medical clinic was performed under the Biden administration, which directly counters something the Trump administration claimed. Which obviously supports women more. Second thing is, it's obviously it's a good thing to see, but then it's also kind of, I don't want to say sad, but it's kind of somber that it's pretty much the only reason that this is being done at this point is because we are in the middle of a global pandemic. People can't leave their houses. People can't have a normal life outside. And so obviously the FDA has to account for this somehow. Therefore, they are being allowed to mail these to recipients during the pandemic. Who knows what it's going to be like after the pandemic? Maybe after the pandemic, it's going to go back to being medical clinic only.
Well, I mean, likely not, because this is halting a rule effectively.
Well, maybe, but I guess we'll just have to wait and see in that regard.
Yeah. But again, as you said, I mean, this is a Trump-era policy reverted by Biden. I mean, the sort of first year and a half of presidencies, most often is just reversing their predecessors' laws and legislations and so forth. And this being one of them, one of many. This Trump era decisions made that are now being sort of checked again and rethought by Biden administration.
As we mentioned in previous episodes.
Well, this was Rapid Fire News. I'm Luca. You need that Sean Bailey, and this is your brand new head of World Talk,
yes, indeed.
Pedro
Santos
de Fontoura.
Anyway, apart from the flashy greeting, that's it for this episode of the World Talk. Make sure to like and subscribe and
Rapid Fire News.
And leave a comment down below on what your favorite piece of news was this week. Thank you.